Hello guys, my name is Suzanne and welcome back to another video. Well, it's 2023 and the first major purchase I decided to make was of MacBook Air M1. Now, to give you a little background, I have never used a MacBook for myself ever. Like, I have used MacBook, but always they were of someone else's to test them out and to do some things. But I have never used or owned a MacBook myself, and I have never worked on it. And I didn't know how much I needed a Mac until now. But now I went ahead and bought the MacBook Air M1. Now, it has been 3 years since it has been released, but why now? Why did I buy a MacBook Air M1 when we have the M2 and the M2 Pro or the M2 Max or M1 Pro and the M1 Max? And why should you too if you're going to buy a MacBook in 2023? So, without wasting any more time, let's get into it. Now let's talk about the first reason, and I think you will be able to relate to it. And that is the pricing. Well, if you don't know, I live in Pakistan, and living in a third world country, the currency is quite shaky at times. And these days, the local currency here is just losing its value on a daily basis. So what does this mean for the laptops or anything that we buy? If you're buying a $1,000 laptop, it would just increase in price in the local currency, which means that I would be paying more than I was paying yesterday. And let's say if I was just buying an M2 Air that just has a $200 difference, that would still be much more in the local currency than it is in dollars. So that is the biggest hurdle living in the third world country, and I think you will be able to relate to it if you are someone like me. But just looking over that issue and seeing the MacBook itself in its original price, that is the $1,000, it is still hard in 2023 to get a decent laptop in that price range. Because even when I was buying my gaming laptop, it was almost $700, and that is the whole plastic build. I know it's a gaming laptop, it's a different thing, but still, the build quality, the overall design, and overall specs are not as good in a $1,000 laptop if you're not buying a MacBook. Because M1 Air is the only one that provides a good value for its money. And wherever you're living, M1 MacBook is still a bang for your buck. But now, the second reason, performance. But before that, let's talk about the specs of this laptop. I have the base model M1 Air, so that means I have 8GB of RAM and 256GB of storage. But if you're someone who's a heavy user, then I would really recommend going for a 16GB model, and that way you will be able to, let's say, future-proof your laptop for more years to come. Going with the 16GB of RAM and just going with the 256GB of storage is a much better option, because the money you will spend on storage, you can literally go ahead and buy a really good external SSD, maybe a Samsung T7, and it will last you for 4 years. If you still end up buying a base model M1, I think it will still last you for years if you don't harshly use your laptop. By that I mean, don't open 50 tabs plus DaVinci Resolve plus Photoshop plus 50 more applications. Just use 3 to 4 applications at a time, and don't overload the CPU with a whole lot of processing, because if you run out of RAM, then it will start using swap memory, which is not bad in any terms, but it will put more pressure on the CPU because it needs to give more RAM, more storage as RAM to some applications for it to run. But that won't ever slow down your laptop, not the M1 MacBook. And even while using swap memory, I never saw any slowdowns in this laptop. It never felt like it was slowing down or heating up more, because it's using swap memory and there are more apps open up in the background. And I still think that even if you have the base model M1 Air, it will still last you years, because the RAM management and the processing is now so efficient. Well, in terms of performance, I don't think I need to talk about all the Geekbench stores, because it's already out there. The laptop has been here on earth for 3 years, and everybody has done that, and you have seen those videos. But in terms of daily usage, and let's say I use DaVinci Resolve, VS Code, if I am doing some mobile development, this laptop is really good. And one thing I really love about Macs is that it is really easier for me to set up all the coding environments on MacBook than it is on Windows, because in Windows there's a whole lot of bunch of stuff that you need to do to be able to code, and you still will be able to do it, and it's still good. I'm not saying anything bad to Windows, I still love it. But in MacBooks, I found it much more easier and efficient and better in comparatively to Windows, because there are many like sub options that you need to go to in order to sometimes run certain parts of code. But in MacBooks, it's usually straightforward, and anything you throw at it, it will still do it. So it is really good for development. It is really good for productivity tasks. It is really good for creativity tasks such as video editing, photo editing, and all of that stuff. So yeah, performance wise, I think this laptop is absolutely great even in 2023, because again, it all comes down to price. How much performance are you getting in that $1,000? And when comparing this to anything else, I don't think, other than the gaming laptops, I don't think in these thin ultrabooks you won't be getting as good of performance in a $1,000 machine that you're getting in a MacBook Air M1. So for the apps, it has been almost 3 years since this laptop has been released, and almost every other application out there now runs natively on the M1 Max. So I don't think you would have any issues running any application on this app, even if the app is not native to the M1 Mac and it is Intel based. You will still be able to run that app through Rosetta, and Rosetta works like a charm, really. You won't feel any problems running any app through Rosetta if it ever comes to it. But most of the apps, the major ones, like if you code, then VS Code, Visual Studio, or any other app, or even in creative apps like the Adobe softwares and Adobe Photoshop, Lightroom, and there's DaVinci Resolve, every other software out there is now natively supported on the MacBooks. So that is pretty great. Well, as for the screen is color accurate, and with 400 nits of brightness, this is a really good screen to use it indoors and outdoors. The color accuracy is great, and if you're into color grading or video editing or any creative task, then this will be great for you. And now, finally, my favorite bit of this laptop, the battery. The battery on these Apple Silicon laptops, the M1, the M2, M1 Pro, except for the M1 Max and the M2 Max, because those are really power hungry CPUs. Other than that, every other Mac has the best battery life ever. And on a light usage, you will be able to run this laptop for 3 days. And on heavy usage, you might be able to do it a day, and then you might have some left to use it the second day. So that is absolutely amazing about the M1 Max. And even if you put the laptop to sleep, it won't drain any battery, unlike my gaming laptop that just drains battery like crazy. Like I would close the lid and come the next day and it would just have taken 10% of battery for nothing. So that is the problem with Windows. And another thing with the battery is that the performance is never affected when you're plugged in or not. So even on battery, the M1 Max or any Apple Silicon Max will always give consistent performance, and even when you're plugged in, you won't see any difference when running any application when you're not plugged in. So that is the best thing, unlike Windows, whose performance just starts to decrease as the battery starts to drain up. And even if you are like 20% battery, Windows laptop might not be able to provide the best performance, but an M1 Mac or any Apple Silicon Mac will always provide consistent performance, unless you start up low battery power mode. But other than that, you will be able to get consistent high performance on battery always. So it doesn't matter if you plug in or you just use it on battery. So before moving to the next section of why I didn't bought the M2 and why you shouldn't, let's talk about Sophia Learning. So if you're a university or a college student and are looking to save some money, then Sophia Learning is for you. Sophia Learning provides low-cost courses to transfer towards your degree. So that means on their website, they have a bunch of courses which you can go ahead and look out and see if there are any courses that match to your degree. Probably when you just complete those courses, you will be able to transfer them as credits, which depends if your university is accepting those as credits. And for that, Sophia Learning will help you out and will guide you through if those credits are transferable or not. But on their website, they have whole lots of courses which are all online. They have videos for it. They also have tutors for it. You can contact them and you can ask Sophia Learning for more assistance with those courses. And you can surely go ahead and contact Sophia Learning by following the link in the description. Start your free trial, contact them and ask them if you're able to transfer the specific credits or specific courses as credits to universities, and go ahead and check them out. Link is in the description, and yeah, start your free trial today. Okay, so back to the video. M2, why not that? So the only thing that I have like problem with M2 Airs is that in a $200 difference, the base M2 Air has slower SSD speeds, and everybody has tested that in the last 2 years, 1 year. I might be getting the years wrong, but everybody has tested that, and SSD speeds are half almost in some applications on the M2 Air. It doesn't mean that it is slow. It doesn't mean that. It's still fast enough and it is still great, but it's just that M1 at $1,000 has more to offer than the M2 Air at base model, because M2 Air base model fixed that SSD hardware issue in the 16GB with the 16GB RAM or 512GB storage configuration. But M1 Air doesn't have that issue. Well, M2 had more thermal throttling when it was tested by many users and many other reviewers, but I believe that any laptop, either M1 or M2, if you push it to the limits, then it will, in the end of the day, thermal throttle. When it comes down to base model performance, I think the M1 Air is still bang for the buck, because it doesn't have these thermal throttling issues, these slower SSD speeds, and it is still fast enough. It still has an amazing wedge design that I really love, a timeless design, and still looks slimmer than still feels like slimmer than the M2, because even though it's a bit thicker than the M2, but still feels slimmer and doesn't have a notch. If you hate the notch, then yeah, M1 Air is good. But overall, I think it's a really good buy. So yeah, that's it for today's video, and if you liked it, then give it a thumbs up. If you disliked it, then give it a thumbs down, it's fine. I won't mind. But if you loved the video, then consider subscribing, it's free. And also apologies to any viewer who consistently views or watches my channel. I know I just have 600 subscribers, but still I haven't posted anything in 2 months because I was sick and then I had papers. So now that I don't have them, and I will surely be consistently uploading videos. So comment down below if you have any suggestions for making these videos better, and you have any other video suggestions, and if you want me to make any review of this M1 Mac, and if you want to know more about it, and if you are maybe looking forward to buy an M2 or an M1 Pro MacBook, and then yeah, surely someone will be able to help you down, and maybe I will be able to give some suggestions. And yeah, that's it for today's video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.